Hello. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Role Playing Guys. This is Spencer hopping in here for another quick intro. This episode is going to be a little explanation of our new grading criteria. We've spoken about it for a little bit now, and we finally wanted to give you guys an idea of what we look for in a game. We were going to start a recording of the season, but Danny's tonsils had a different idea, so we actually had to delay it. He's doing a lot better now, so no worries, but if you want to send him a little love, that would be much appreciated. If you have a game that you want us to test or review, send us a message on social media or email us at rolepg13@gmail.com. If you have a game that you want us to test out, you can contact us in the same way that I just said. You can also check out our website, rolepg13.com, for awesome ideas of games and our previous reviews of games. The next episode we release will be in the Wrath and Glory game, set in a universe of Warhammer 40k. If you or a friend are into that, I'm sure that you will love this season. Ty will be the GM, and Danny, Nick, and I will play the game. This is a little snippet of what Ty wanted me to read for our episodes as we get ready for the season.
In the future, there is only war and Warhammer 40k. Join the role-playing guys as they delve into the game system of Wrath and Glory and the brutal universe of Warhammer 40k. After successfully rooting out the heretical planetary governor of Tyre, Inquisitor Eisen and his faithful acolytes make their way through the warp on an assignment for the Empire. After leaving the warp, the Inquisitorial band finds a mysterious planet completely off the Imperial records. What lies on the surface of this unknown planet? Guess you'll have to listen to find out. That was my best impersonation of Don from the network. If you haven't listened to his show, How to Survive a Horror Movie, you definitely should. That's How to Survive a Horror Movie. It's a lot of fun. He is I can't remember how he describes himself, the king of captions or something like that, because he reads all the subtitles. Thank you so much to our patrons over at Patreon, Jules, Brad, and Steven. You are the De Niro to our Scorsese. Without you, the show just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I really don't have anything else to say, so let's get to the episode.
I guess I will run this because I am the master. So welcome to the Role Playing Guys. We're doing a quick little episode, and if you want to call it an episode, it might just be a dialogue as we talk about the new rating system. Oh, I like that word.
A trialogue. That is true. There are 3 people, not 2.
It's a triple. So
triple
we're
threat.
having a trialogue that a triple threat. Here we go. That we're just going to go through our new rating system that we're going to go back and retroactively apply to all the games, but also use in the future. So Nick has been a huge help on that and organizing it. And today we're going to discuss the Roleplay Guys criteria.
Yeah. As kind of part of our mission, our goal to try out different games so you don't have to, we thought that having some kind of like actual rating criteria would be helpful. And so, but I mean, as you may know, rating a game, any type of game, it will always be at least kind of subjective. But we do want to give people a better idea of whether a particular game or system is right for you or your group. And so we're going to summarize the different points of criteria and so for this rating system, which we've kind of figured out ourselves, everything except one, for everything except one criteria, we're going to pretty much rate everything on a quote-unquote D10 system. We're going to give a number between 1 and 10 of these criteria. And then for our final overall score, we're not going to give a number, we're going to give a dice. One of the 7 polyhedral dice, D4, D6, D8, D12,
D16.
D10.
D10, D20, and D100. Is that?
Yes.
Yeah. The 7 polyhedral dice you get from buying a set of polyhedral dice.
Of nerd dice.
Of nerd dice.
Of nerd
Basically, the
dice.
larger
That's
the
the
dice,
only way
the
to
great.
describe it.
The larger the dice.
It's a pack of nerd dice.
The larger the dice, the greater the potential we see for the game to provide an excellent experience for your gaming group. So, just if for example we give a game a D4, we don't think it's bad at all. It's just like maybe it might be very specific, and maybe I don't know, maybe it'd be only for very very specific people, or maybe it just has. Maybe its potential is small, which is not necessarily a bad thing at all. But if we give like a D20 or D100, then we were very impressed by kind of, I don't know, I guess potential really is the best word for it. I don't know if anyone.
Yeah,
if
I think the best example that we can give of this is a D4 would be something like the card game War. You can't really have a lot of fun with it. It's very limited. You do it to kill time. Whereas something like Red Dead Redemption or Skyrim might be a D100 because the potential is incredible. Like regardless
the amount of time you can put in,
regardless of if you like those games, you can recognize the fact that there is an absurd amount of side quests and rabbit holes to go down into. So their potential is massive.
And they're solid, and they're very solid rabbit holes that have amazing story arcs.
Mm-hmm. So,
so
that's the way that I would describe it.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you.
And also on the D10 scale that we're doing, a 1 is bad and a 10 is good. So just to clarify that as well. When we post our reviews, we're going to be posting them on our websites, and we're going to be giving little explanations to the numbers that we give as well to explain exactly why we feel the way that we do. So that way it isn't just a number. There's a little bit more meat to our analysis as well.
Yeah, exactly. We want to explain the we recognize that numbers are helpful, but we also know that it's probably more helpful to also have some at least brief explanation of why we gave that number. So, also before we get into the specific criteria, as we kind of rate a game, we generally focus on 3 things. We think about like creativity of the game, how it's written, or the different aspects of it, or how it runs.
If you will.
So first is creativity. In general. Next is ease of access. Games, we believe, are meant to be played and tried out. That's why we're doing what we do. And then also, as we said before, just pure fun potential, basically. And so those are the main things that we have in mind.
We know I'm already excited, as you can see, as I'm trying to interrupt Nick with this. But we know that you guys are very excited, holding on to the edge of your seats in anticipation as we get ready to actually spell out the specific criteria. So why don't we get into it?
Let's do it.
Yay!
All right.
Yay! I'll go first.
Classic.
All right. So it's always me. I'm always first. It's all about me. So the first one is general concept and setting, which is very, very important for any kind of tabletop RPG you are going to play. If the setting is play the daily routine where you go to school or your 9-to-5 job, that's going to be a big one on my book. So basically it's like Nick said in the document. It's an elevator pitch. How awesome does the setting sound? How unique is it? Is it interesting? Is it bland? That's the main concept of it.
I like the word unique in that explanation because there are some games that are piggybacking off or standing on the shoulders of previous giants that have come before them. Not to knock them down or anything. It's just their general setting isn't new.
We definitely do appreciate games more if they bring at least something new or maybe a different spin to the table of tabletop RPGs. Next is learning curve. So all games have a certain kind of weight to them, quote unquote. And usually people talking about how a game is rules light or rules heavy or something like that. And I mean, it can be page count, it can be the complexity of the rules, that kind of thing. So we believe that both, the length as well as the complexity can affect someone's ability to learn and feel comfortable with a new system. And so that's why we're calling this criteria learning curve. So basically, is it easy or fun to learn? Like, it doesn't have to be easy, but is it fun? Is it fun to get into? this is a generally accessible game after considering its rules weight, its mechanics, and also its formatting as well. The actual formatting of the documents themselves would play a role in there as well.
Yes.
That is a big
We can
one.
definitely see with our reading of many rule books at this point, many people are very good at developing and coming up with ideas, but they didn't have an editor.
Yes, very true.
Or like,
But I mean,
yeah.
having a like rules, heavy or complicated system also doesn't mean it's gonna knock you down in total. Like there's plenty of games we played where it did have a very steep learning curve, but was very entertaining and very enjoyable.
It was very worth
when
it.
we did figure it out. It was very worth learning.
Yeah.
So we will note that also.
Yeah.
In the
not just is it easy to learn, because that's it's more like, is it fun to learn?
Yes. I'm sorry,
So-
that was a very stupid word that I used. I apologize to all of our listeners. Yes does
But anyway.
not have an A.
yeah.
Anyway, go ahead, Spencer.
The next criteria that we consider is character creation and development. How easy is it to create a character? How fun is it to create a character? How much are you having to refer to the rulebook to develop this character? And then after you've made them, how easy is it for them to level up, to gain advancements, and to actually be playable? What I'm trying to get at is character development and character creation should be something that gets somebody, a player, excited to actually be playing
Yeah.
the game and intrigued to play a character that they have made.
Exactly. It's honestly like it's probably one of the most exciting things for a player in a game. And so we feel that this specific thing, character creation, as well as how the characters can develop in the game, is very important to look at.
Also, I think in that criteria, we're also including things like general uniqueness in attributes of character. Is it based off of older systems such as Dungeons and Dragons, where it is the 6 basic criteria that's still being employed? Or is it going to be something new and unique that they're using?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big thing I was saying is, are the classes or the archetypes or the professions that you play in the game, are they unique or are they just like the same old? So that's a big thing I feel.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's that.
That
The
is
next one
that.
is balance. So kind of going along with character creation, character development is if the balance of the game is good. So like, are the different classes equal in power? Is one more dominating? Will it allow a player to break the system? Also, balance also goes with, combat balances. If the game's easy to, create encounters, either social or combat based, I think it's also very important to note as we rate the game also.
Yeah, I think it's as far as balance goes, at least I care more about how the players would feel, because it's one thing for something to mechanically feel unbalanced, but it's another thing if the players feel that way. It's very important to have each player feel like they are useful in some capacity. For example, in something like Corporia, if you're a runner and that's all you do, you're not going to do very well. I mean, if you don't know anything about magic, you're not going to do very well there. And so the sorcerers and witchers are going to shine. But then also, of course, the runners are great with dexterity and avoidance and speed and things like that. So anyway, yeah. So the next criteria is GMing. I mean, most people in a game session will focus on the player experience, but GMing is pretty much an entirely different game all
The
by
thankless
itself.
job.
It is
Thankless job.
Actually,
everyone gets angry with
actually,
you
I
about.
found it a pretty thankful job, honestly.
Everyone hates you.
I
But
was
anyway,
holding in all of that anger I had with you, Nick, last season.
Yeah, I didn't text Nick for the 6 months that we played Corporia.
Yeah. That's good.
good gravy.
Except except for just like butt emojis.
I sent him pictures of Trent.
We didn't even have pictures of Trent. Anyway, what this criteria focuses on is what resources does the game give to GMs? Do they provide tables, maybe sample monsters or something? How much does the GM need to prepare before each game session? How does the game balance its burden of information tracking between the players and the GM? I know I played a game or two where I, as the GM, have to do a lot of work to make sure that I am keeping track of everything. For example, there's a Pokemon tabletop game where I just have to do so much in combat to keep track of and whatever.
And all the voices. I mean, come on.
Oh,
That
his
is
voice is not really something that a game can really do.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
actually,
games. A lot of games actually require voices from the GM.
They
That's something true.
What? What?
Yeah. You got to
Anyway,
read the books.
Anyway, but can this game be just as fun for the GM as it can be for the players? That's the main point. What resources does the game give? How much fun can the GM have, as well as helping the players have a good time? So there's that.
I think that basically summarized it really well. The next section that we're going to talk about is, it kind of breaks down into 3 separate subsections, if you will. And we're going to be talking specifically about gameplay, which can be broken down into combat, exploration, and role-playing. So these are 3 fundamental pillars that build up any RPG. You're going to do all 3 of these in any sort of good game. So the first one is combat. This is the general sense of how structured combat is, how movement works, how the decisions work by the PCs and NPCs involved in the scenes, how easy is it for combat to break down, how clunky is it? Is it going to be a lot of just dice rolling and number crunching, or is there going to be more interaction? And how much falls to the players and how much falls to the GM in that sense?
Yeah, we call this combat. Some games may call this initiative, but maybe there might, as far as I know, there's all kinds of games out there. Might be games that don't have any like actual fighting in it, but there certainly is like combat. There's like non-battle battles essentially. But even still, basically the part of the game that handles a group of people doing different things in a short amount of time, which is a tough thing for games to keep track of. So how does that work?
Yeah, the other thing I think is super important is how the monsters and the enemies match up with players, but also match up with the setting. If they're interesting opponents, or if they're kind of just bland and everything's kind of the same and it's literally just a slugfest. We know that a lot of combat is up to, who's running it and also the players, but we want to also review if the system helps make combat interesting through its creation, like creatures and monsters and opponents you'll fight also.
I think that's a really good point, Ty. The depth of richness in the monster manual and items that can be used as well. Because I think a lot of the time, games just kind of revert to just using items, a specific weapon against each other, where there isn't much interaction with the environment. So encouragement from the game system to use that environment as well.
Yeah, exactly. The next pillar is exploration. I never do this in any of my games. It's completely worthless. No, I was kidding. But seriously, it's a very important thing in tabletop games. It's the ability and ease to explore the world that the system helps create. So is it easy for your characters to interact with NPCs? Is it easy for them to investigate a warehouse for clues and information? There's so many factors. It just is the system able to help them do those things? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe not so much easy, but fun.
Yes.
Is it fun and to explore? Yeah, so if you're looking more for a score on how the world is actually built, that's what general concept / setting is for. This is for how you explore it. And
like
then,
the skill checks and things like that.
Yeah.
Skill checks, yeah, that's a good example from Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder and such. The final subsection of gameplay is role playing, which we could call interaction, but interaction might exclude individual character expression. So that's why we have the general term role playing. So how does the game handle expressions and interactions from and between different characters, between different PCs, between PCs and NPCs, maybe between NPCs? What role does role playing actually have in this game?
That's very, very good. Very, very true. I don't think there's anything else to add.
It kind of goes along with character creation. There's a lot to add.
Dang it.
Rebuked.
Just if the character creation, if the characters you can make are able to be role played interesting, also, like we've been using Corporea a lot for this example, but the character creation helps the role playing in the fact that you have traits, public traits, you have private traits that help you play your character. So I think the other thing is we'll discuss probably in the role-playing aspect is if character creation development also leads into the ease of role-playing and getting into the world and getting into the system.
I think that was a good catch, Ty.
Mm-hmm.
The next thing is sustainability. Is this a game that is going to be a one-shot short campaign thing where you don't really level characters up, there isn't much difficulty or advancement in the game? Is this going to be a game that you could play for weeks, months, years, potentially? I think if we look at some games like Corporea, I think that's a really good game that you could play for a couple of months, but I don't see it as something that could be played for multiple years. Whereas something like Pathfinder, that's something that has so much complexity that it could be played for an extended period of time. I think different games have different sustainability and different expected lengths of time that you can actually play them.
Yeah, so, I mean, we are, like with all the other criteria before, we are still going to do a 1 to 10 number. A lower number just means it's I mean, in this case, it's not necessarily bad, but it's just that the game is better for a shorter sort of, I guess, campaign, quote unquote. Maybe just a 1 or 2 shot or something, which may be what you and your group are looking for. So
I think if I could jump in really quick to kind of...
Sure.
I think at least how I saw it is sustainability. Maybe, yes, it is a short game, but does it play into that shortness? Is it able to do one shots very well since it was created for that? It's for longer campaigns. Does it do that very well? Does it provide you enough material and content to do that? So that, games that are shorter won't get worse scores and lower their total score. That kind of stuff is at least how I thought about it potentially.
I like that. I think that might be a better way of looking at it. Whether or not it plays well into what it's meant to be. Because I think like a game like Suited, that is meant to be a one-shot, but it's a very, very good one-shot game.
It is, yeah.
Shout out to Escape Box Games. You guys developed a wonderful system.
Yeah, yes. You guys are cool.
Hey, you're really cool. I like you a lot. And I guess the last one is cost. We all know that is probably one of the biggest criterias. Let's just be honest. If it takes a chunk out of your wallet, you're probably not going to get into it. So just talking about like, is it worth the amount of money? Does it have the right bang for your buck? So I know like D&D has tons of books, as like the Player's Handbook, the Dungeon Master Guide, the Monster Manuals, all the campaign booklets. You could be dishing out a ton of money to play this game to its fullest extent, but you are getting a lot of bang for your buck because the content is very well made. So looking at the content to cost ratio to see if it's worth purchasing.
Again, using Corporea as an example, it's the most recent longer campaign game that we've done. If I'm not mistaken, it only costs $10 to $15, which I think is pretty good, especially for what you get from it.
Yeah, you get the core rulebook for $15, which is enough to be able to actually play through the system, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, just the one book by itself, which is really good. And then another thing about cost is that a lot of games will have extra content. Corporea, Pathfinder, D&D, they all have extra content apart from the core game and everything. I mean, a suggestion I had was that we have a separate cost rating for extra content. Is the extra content worth the extra investment, perhaps?
Yeah, I think that's big. Kind of goes into sustainability.
I think because we play more of the base system alone, we don't typically get into the extra content. It isn't as frequent that we get into that. And I think with shorter seasons, our ability to get into that would be a little bit more limited, and we wouldn't be able to do a full evaluation of that proper.
Right, not a full evaluation, but maybe like looking into that for cost as well. Like, are the expansions maybe necessary or something to have a good time? Or anyway, for example, I did use a few expansion things for Corporea, but yeah, that's cost. Like, not only how costly is it, but how much bang for your buck do you get?
Yeah.
So those are all the main criteria that we have that we'll be doing 1 to 10. But then all of that helps to inform our overall score, which, as has been said before, will be represented by one of the 7 polyhedral nerd dice, as we say. The bigger the dice, the greater the potential we see in the game. So, and actually, and another way to put this is that, let's say you have a D6 and a D10 for damage. If you had to choose between the two, almost anyone would go for the D10 because the potential for damage is higher. But a D10 can still roll a 1. You can still roll higher on a D6 than you can on a D10, for example. And so, if the dice gods are on your side, or in the context of a game, if it works well for what you and your group are looking for, then you'll roll the highest number on the dice, basically. So, but yeah, it's just kind of a little cheeky little RPG thing that we thought would be fun for our overall score. And if you do end up being interested in a game, take a chance on it and see if you roll a crit with it. And that crit could be a 4 or a 10 or a 20 or a 100 or whatever.
That's going to be our rating system for now on in the future. Also, when we do the season end review, we talk about the game and how it felt. We'll use this criteria also during the episode. And so we'll all do this separately. We'll come together. We'll average out the results, and that will give you guys the final result for the review. So we're very excited. Nick did a great job on creating all of this stuff, so thanks to him. And we're excited for you guys to check out these reviews and hopefully help you guys get into new systems and trying out new things, branching out.
As the wise man once said, there is no growth in the comfort zone, and there is no comfort in the growth zone. Right?
Yeah. That's some.
I
stuff.
gotta say, I've been having a lot of fun so far with all these crazy systems and everything. So I'm excited that we have this new rating system that we will use for all of our games, past, present, and future, that we are playing through to, again, help with our mission of us trying out games and now telling you what we think of them, reviewing them, so you don't have to.
Precisely.
All right.
I'm going to be the Simon of the group and just burn everyone.
New from the Necropodicon Podcast Network comes a horror movie review podcast called How to Survive a Horror Movie. Paul, Harley, and Don delve into horror movies where Don tries to make a connection to the movie Jumanji. Paul doesn't let Don get a word in edgewise, and Harley likes to make animal noises. Check us out every Wednesday on the Necropodicon Network. How to Survive a Horror Movie. Just when you thought it was safe to listen to podcasts again.
Dun, da, 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 da.